Good afternoon, everybody. The main theme for today is regarding the Bodhisattva Vows. This set of vows is specific to the Mahayana path, as it defines how one does engage for the sake of all sentient beings. There are, we could talk about three types of vows, the vows of individual liberation, monks and non-vows, the Bodhisattva vows, specific to the Mahayana path, and the Tantric vows, specific to the Vajrayana path. Once we enter onto the Mahayana path and the Vajrayana path, we come across with the Bodhisattva vows, either individually or as part of some higher tantric class initiation. Since the Vajrayana is based on the Mahayana, when you take some little bit more advanced practice, you receive some advanced practice, you take the Bodhisattva vows as part of it, because the Vajrayana cannot be conceivable without bodhicitta, without a clear understanding and a clear engagement in bodhicitta. So sooner or later, somebody who enters the Mahayana or the Vajrayana path will have to take these vows and will have to maintain these vows. So it is important to know them and to be acquainted with what they mean in terms of engagement as well in our daily life. The Bodhisattva vows themselves are divided in two sets. You have the root vows and the secondary vows. So the root vows are at the number of 18 and secondary of 46. We can say that if one of the root vows is broken, we consider the Bodhisattva ordination to be broken. If one of the secondary vows is broken, we can say that the ordination is damaged but not destroyed. So the meaning, the goal of taking these vows is to, on one side, to increase our bodhicitta by defining how to behave, what to do and what not in relation with the others. As you remember, most probably, there are three main pillars, three main important points to keep in mind, which are first the renunciation, so a good understanding about samsara and why not to enjoy or get attached to samsara, bodhicitta, and emptiness. So bodhicitta is an element of the Mahayana path which is not avoidable. It is concretely one of the roots of our practice. And it refers to this personal engagement to reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And this engagement knows no limit in terms of time and space, in the sense that we engage ourselves to remain in the samsara as long as there will be being to liberate. And no limit in terms of space, because a bodhisattva and a Buddha can manifest in as many places as there are beings who have created the causes for the bodhisattva or the Buddha to appear. So it is not a commitment that one makes lightly, and and we need to maintain this engagement. I mean, once we engage on the Mahayana path and we know about bodhicitta, it's not just because we read one text about it that suddenly it sinks into our mind. So we need to meditate upon bodhicitta again and again till it really merge with our consciousness, till that motivation becomes one with our mind. Sometimes we hear people talking about bodhicitta as a mental factor, something that comes and goes, or sometimes we have bodhicitta, sometimes we don't have bodhicitta. It's not like that. We can have some compassion, which comes at some moments more strongly, and we can have some kindness, which comes and goes according to circumstances. But bodhicitta is a specific motivation. So we are not talking about something that comes and goes, but with a motivation. So it's at some point of our practice, when our mind will be stabilized, bodhicitta will sit within our mind and remain there, defining every actions, every thought, every words of our life. And then the bodhisattva, the one who has developed bodhicitta and maintains bodhicitta in his mind, everything that will be done by this being, this practitioner, will be out of bodhicitta. So will be for the sake of all sentient beings, to sleep, to eat, everything will be just with one aim, is to help all sentient beings. So usually the monks and nuns vows and the tantric vows are not exposed until somebody takes them. So at least this is what should be. But the Bodhisattva vows, we can give some explanation about them even before to take them. So I propose that we go through the 18 root vows to have an understanding of what the Bodhisattva commits, or the Bodhisattva to be, or the aspirant Bodhisattva is taking as vows. And if you have taken them already, maybe it is a good reminder if you do not read them often. Once we have taken the Bodhisattva vows, there is no procedure to give them back. Unlike monks and nuns who can become lay again, I never come across any procedure to give back the Bodhisattva or the tantric vows. So at the same time, I can only but encourage everyone to take these vows, because they are very important, and if we keep them, they are very helpful and a great source of merit accumulation. At the same time, we need to be very careful before to take them to be sure we can uphold them. So the 18 root vows, we go through them. The first one is about praising oneself and denigrating others. So the person who has taken these vows should avoid praising oneself and bragging about oneself, while at the same time denigrating the others or seeing the others as lower and complaining about the negative karma of the others and such. Usually when somebody praises oneself and eventually criticize the others, it is with the aim of gaining fame or gaining offerings, respect, or such. The second vow is about not giving wealth and dharma. So in front of people who are in need, to refuse to help, basically. So if somebody would benefit from a little financial help or little food or such, or if somebody is in distress or in search for a spiritual path, not to give the Dharma, this would break the vow. So one needs to practice generosity under all its form. When we talk about generosity as part of the six perfection, financial help or material help and the Dharma help are clearly mentioned as well. Actually, if we are on the Mahayana path, we can wonder why we would not like to help the other sentient beings. So if we have a little bit of clinging to wealth or elitism type of mind, or elitist type of mind, so getting a little bit of fame or a little bit of thinking we are a little bit superior because we know something that the others do not know, we need to work specifically on that. So in any circumstances, when we have the possibility to help the others, when we have the possibility to teach the others or to give some information about the Dharma which could bring them any benefit, we need to do it. If somebody would benefit from meditation, then we need to explain how to meditate and how to pacify the mind. The worst attitude would be to know how to meditate and refuse to teach to somebody because either we don't like that person or because we want to appear as the one who knows something that the others do not. The third vow is about not forgiving even if somebody has apologized. So if somebody has eventually done something wrong to you and regrets it and come to apologize about it, if by pride or by wish to make them suffer, we would not accept this apology, then we break the vow. Also, if somebody has committed a heavy negative karma, a crime or such, and would come to confess it to you, then you should be ready to accept it and not refuse it for any reason. The fourth one is regarding abandoning the Mahayana. So if for any reason you would think that Mahayana is too complicated, that you don't understand the reason for which the Bodhisattva are engaging into their action, and so on, then you start to criticize and you abandon the Mahayana path. Also, if you would think that the Mahayana path is not really the Buddha's teaching and it is mixed with some non-Buddhist teachings and it is overcomplicated, and for such reason you would abandon the idea to follow the Mahayana, then you break the vow. There has been some ideas like that roaming that Mahayana was actually not taught by the Buddha because it appeared publicly later than the Buddha. So some people said that this is not part of Buddha's teaching, but this is wrong. It was taught at the Buddha's time. It only appeared resurfaced later on. The fifth vows is about stealing offerings made for the three jewels. So if somebody was offered for the three jewels and you steal it, either some offering made to a monastery or offering made to a monk, and you steal this for your own sake and for yourself, then you break the vow. Often these vows is also extended to stealing things which are meant for the others in general. So we should be careful at some point of what we are taking or what we are accepting to be sure that it was not intended for somebody else or for the three jewels. The sixth vows is about abandoning the Dharma. in a way that you would think some parts of either the Hinayana, the Mahayana, or the Vajrayana is not from the Buddha, and you start to criticize or reject the teachings, and then you break these vows. The seventh vow is regarding disrobing monks and nuns. That doesn't happen every day anyhow, but if you would be in a position to force a monk or a nun to leave his ordination or her ordination, then you break this vow. So in this case, it is really forcing them, because there is another vow which will be to discourage them from maintaining their ordination, but here it is forcing them. The eighth vow is about committing the 5 heinous crimes, which consist in killing one's father, killing one's mother, killing an arat, wounding a Buddha, and creating a schism or a split in the Sangha. So these are considered as especially heavy negative karma. The ninth vow is about holding wrong views. So would somebody come to deny the existence of 3 jewels or karma, or reject the idea of ultimate and conventional truth and such? These are wrong views. So this is considered as a very negative behavior, because you will not be able to benefit yourself or to benefit the others by denying such a fundamental part of the Dharma. As an example, if you would not believe anymore in karma, or if you would reject the idea of karma, then you might not pay attention to the consequences of your actions, and consequently continue to accumulate negative karma, or to lead others to accumulate negative karma. The 10th vow is regarding destroying a city or towns. Well, this is also hopefully not something in any of our abilities, but nevertheless, this is a very negative karma. We can understand it quite well, to destroy any inhabited places. And this includes all kind of means to destroy inhabited place. May it be by setting something in fire, or bombs, or black magic. So don't do that anymore if you have done it already. The 11th vow is teaching emptiness to people who are not ready for that. So this refers to not trying to explain or convince somebody about emptiness if that person does not have the capacity to understand it. One of the danger, one of the risks, is that the person misunderstand your explanation and fall into nihilism, or reject completely Dharma because of fear of non-existence of anything. The understanding of the true nature of phenomena is a very subtle topic. It's quite complex to explain correctly, and if done wrongly, or if done to the wrong person, it can have very negative consequences. So at some point, by some kind of pride, maybe, we can be tempted to enter into the explanation of such topic, because it also might give the feeling to the others that we know a lot, or that we have realized even something as such. but we need to think seriously about the consequences of such explanation before to engage into it. The next vow, the 12th vow, is about reversing others' aspiration for complete enlightenment. It refers to telling somebody that maybe he does not or she does not have the capacity for the higher scope of the path, so better to leave Mahayana and engage into the Hinayana, which will fit better for him or her and will allow her a quicker achievement of liberation. So in such case, you would bring somebody who is engaged into a higher goal, the Mahayana, into a lesser one, and it would break the vow. The 13th vow is causing someone to abandon individual liberation. So this is the vow I was referring about earlier. In this case, you do not force a monk or a nun to disrobe, but you encourage them by telling them that the vows are not so important, that if you engage into the Mahayana or the Vajrayana, then you don't need such commitment. And by telling them this wrong advice, they might give back their ordination and you break the vow. This applies also if you would discourage a monk or a nun to observe all the vows. So, for example, telling that this particular vow or that particular vow doesn't matter, that you can drink alcohol even if you keep the other vows and such. So, this wrong advice breaks this vow. The 14th vow is about denigrating the Hinayana path. So we should not criticize the Hinayana path, stating that it is a very low path and that the person will not be able to reach anything and such, especially in front of somebody who is already engaged into the Hinayana path. So when asked about the difference between one path and another, of course, we can give an opinion about the motivation, about the goal of each of the paths, but never with the attitude of criticizing or lowering any of the path, any of the Buddhist path. Yes. As a matter of fact, the ethic and the discipline is that we are upholding in the Mahayana and Vajrayana path is based on the Hinayana teachings and are found in the Hinayana path. So we should not criticize, and we should not forget that some practitioners of the Hinayana path are far more advanced than we can be, even if we pretend to be on the Mahayana path. So they might have realized renunciation, they might have realized stabilization of the mind and so on, which we might not yet have realized. So even if we think that our motivation is better, we should not criticize somebody who is from another path. The 15th vow is regarding claiming to have realized emptiness. I mean, especially falsely claiming that. So claiming to have a type of realization that we have not yet achieved. We are on a path of also of humility, and in order not to create confusion and criticism or misinterpretation, we must not expose what we have realized or not. Even having realized some higher experiences, it is much better to remain humble and not to brag about any realization. But of course, this is even more true if you have not realized these things that you might claim to have achieved. This is also true if you imply. So one must be very careful to the words used or to the attitude used. As we have some experience also, or some example of people who imply to have higher realizations, whereas it might not be the case. In this case, if they have the Bodhisattva vows, they break the ordination. So whatever experience or whatever CD's power we might have achieved or developed or acquired along the path, we must not brag about it, and we must never use them in order to boost our ego or try to develop a kind of fame for the sake of more respect or more donations or more offerings and such. It would be also wrong to imply or to speak to the others in a way that they would understand if they follow you specifically, they will obtain the same higher realization that you have already achieved. I think on the Tibetan path there is a great respect for humility and humble attitudes, far more than boosting one's own capacities. Yes, not boosting and boasting. The 16th vow is receiving properties or property of the three jewels. So in this case is if you accept something which was dedicated for the three jewels, so which was stolen from the three jewels and given to you, if you accept, then you break this vow. So if a property or an object or a statue or whatever was offered to the three jewels or offered to a monastery, for example, somebody stole it and or redirected to you in any way, if you accept such gift, then you commit this offense. The vow 17 is regarding a person who is engaged into higher concentration practice and giving away his belonging to others. It needs a little bit explanation, this one. So it refers to somebody who would be engaged into higher practices, to whom some offerings are made, who might accept this offering made to him, but because that person is not very happy about the benefactor, he would give this offering to somebody else. So the offense is created by the negative intent. So an offering is made to a higher practitioner, and the higher practitioner give this offering to a lesser practitioner. So in this case, there is offense because the person who made this offering thought it would go for a higher practitioner, whereas the offering will go to a lesser practitioner. Of course, if the higher practitioner would do so because he can see that lesser practitioner has less good to live and is in need, this is another matter. Yes, in this case, it's because the higher practitioner would not be satisfied either by the offering or by whom offered the goods and would just somehow throw them away. And the last root vow, but not the least, is giving up bodhicitta. Giving up bodhicitta means that you stop to have the wish to engage yourself for the sake of all sentient beings. So you give up your aim to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. But we can also mention that if somebody excludes one being from his motivation, to reach enlightenment, this downfall also occurs, which is very important because when you take the vows, you engage yourself to help all sentient beings. So to maintain, to keep all sentient beings in your field of compassion, in your field of bodhicitta. If you reject one being, you break the vow. So if we are not careful about our mind, our motivation, our engagement, if we take the vows at 1 o'clock, at 1:30, we can have destroyed our Bodhisattva ordination. So it is very important to understand the meaning of this vow and to always pay attention to maintain all sentient beings without exception in your motivation, in your goal to reach enlightenment. So these are the 18 root Bodhisattva vows. I encourage you to read further the 46 branch vows. I need to say that in order to break completely a vow and the ordination, the Bodhisattva ordination which goes with it, one needs to have what we call the 4 factors. So the 4 factors, the first is not thinking that what we have done is a mistake. Second is not to generate the intention to refrain from that action in the future. The third is to rejoice in the action that we have committed. And the fourth is not having any regret about what we have done, about the action we have committed. So in order for a vow to be completely broken, one needs to have these 4 factors. Exception made of the 9th and 18th vow. So the 18th vow is the last that we have seen regarding excluding one being or abandoning bodhicitta. So abandoning bodhicitta for all sentient beings or just for one being. For this, you don't need the 4 factors. Just at the moment you exclude one being from your bodhicitta or you give up bodhicitta motivation, the vow is destroyed. The 9th vow was about wrong views. So if you consciously reject the karma or reincarnation or the Four Noble Truths, just the fact of engaging into these wrong views break the vow and the ordination. So for the other vows, if the 4 factors are not present, or if you become aware of the negative action you have committed and generate immediately regret about it, then the offense is not complete. So these were the 18 root vows, which give you an idea about what the vows are about and the reason for which we need to take them and maintain them purely. Somehow these vows are at the same time a step that we are making towards developing bodhicitta and a mean to maintain our engagement. So it is at the same time a goal and a help to go further somehow. So we engage onto the Bodhisattva path. We will take the Bodhisattva vows, which are very important, very precious, and these vows will greatly help us to go further. The 18 root vows are important. Maybe we can see the 46 secondary as less important, but in a way they are helping us to maintain a pure dedication and pure motivation in our everyday life and everyday engagement. They are guidelines, and each of them are a teaching in itself to train our mind, to train our motivation. So for those who have taken these vows and want to maintain them as well as possible, please do read them as often as possible. Otherwise, it's very easy to forget them and to engage into wrongdoing. If the ordination has been damaged or broken, it can be renewed by taking them again, or by taking, either separately or along with an initiation of the highest class. This ordination is essential for somebody who wish to follow the Mahayana path, and of course for the Vajrayana path. Voila, I think I covered the basics of the Bodhisattva vow. And as usual, whenever we engage in a teaching or in a practice or in any virtuous action, we should not forget to dedicate these actions for the sake of all sentient beings.